Welcome back to the program here now. As I promised, we staying with the top issues in the country now, as we saw so many people come out to the streets of Israel. Now the political issues on the table, clearly divisive and worth hashing out here, worth discussing. And so we bring in two great representatives of what I argue are some of the sides in this debate right now. We're joined in the studio by Yariv Oppenheimer, the project director for the two-state coalition, the Geneva Initiative, and Eli Chazan, international ambassador for the Likud Party. Both of you have been with me on the program before. I appreciate your time again. I know you're both great advocates, for your sides of the debate here. So thanks for joining. I just want to put a real simple thing on the table for both of you to respond to right away. We're hearing just, from all sides of this debate around the judiciary, the new government, those opposed to it, is this question of quote unquote democracy. What does that say to you? And Yariv, you're in the studio. I'll come to you first. What's at risk? Is democracy at risk? What does this mean? Everyone talking about saving democracy.
Yeah, last night I was there in the demonstration and I saw so many people that are not coming to demonstrate about policy. They didn't come to speak about settlements or about even rights of minorities or something that related to the government activity. It was a demonstration about the rules of the game. It was a demonstration about whether Israel is a real democracy and whether tomorrow morning we can have a free and open debate about other issues. It's not just about where this government wants to go. It's about what is an Israeli democracy. And when I hear the word democracy, it's not just the majority rules, it's also the minority rights. And I'm asking Eli and other people in the government, if this legislation will pass, who is going to protect the rights of the minority in Israel? Who is going to limit the power of the Israeli coalition and the Israeli government? I don't know anyone that will be able to do it, because until today, the only way to protect the minority rights, freedom of speech, the freedom of, or even the freedom to demonstrate, it was about the Supreme Court. And this legislation aimed to weaken the Supreme Court and to make it irrelevant.
Eli, what's your response here? On the topic of democracy, everyone's saying it's embattled right now. What's your take on this?
Yeah, in my point of view, and by the way, I was educated mostly by leftist teachers, including in the Hebrew University. Checks and balances. It means that there are three authorities: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial system. And they have checks and balances. And what we are witnessing in the last, let's say, since 1992, and of course since 1995, when Aaron Barak was appointed as president of the Supreme Court, that there is no more checks and balances. Israel is the only place in the world where the Supreme Court has unlimited power. And we want to fix, or at least to restore, the checks and balances. Now, Yariv asked me about, not limiting anyone. I'm sorry, Yariv, but I must tell you that the politicians in Israel, they are so very weak, and you are afraid of limiting, or blocking the freedom of expression. I want to go back to the disengagement. I want to go back to 2005, when the Supreme Court did not defend 12 years old kids, 14 years old children who was arrested in a very problematic way. As you know, Yariv, maybe you disagree.
It's a very weak argument to take an example from more than 20 years ago about one specific incident in which this teenager was not ready even to say his name to the police people. No, it's not incident. And the fact that you're going back 20 years back shows that the argument is very weak.
Yariv, I did not interrupt you. And I will never interrupt you, but let me go the following. If there is someone who needs this protection from the state, is the right wing, not the left wing, because you have already the protection of the Supreme Court, of the media. I want to remind you about the previous government. For instance, the agreement with Lebanon. You know that every international agreement should pass in the Knesset. Yair Lapid didn't do it. Not to mention that Gideon Sa'ar appointed his friend as a legal advisor. We are going to fix it, whether you like it or not. We've got the majority in the election.
On that point,
we are fighting. For democracy and not against democracy.
Let me chime in here and interject this. On that point, fighting for this, and Yariv, coming to you on what we're seeing last night. The rally. I'll say it looks like more or less everyone who did not vote, for this government coming out to protest, unhappy. Are we talking about, is this movement essentially trying to strong-arm the process right now, sort of a street mob mentality to influence policy? What is hope to really be gained from people coming out to the streets?
First of all, this is the beginning to create a discussion. I think that this government is surprised by the amounts of people that are going to demonstrate every week, and shows that the Israeli public is taking it very seriously. And I hope that this demonstration will have more effect, not just about the people, but also people, the strong people in the economy, strong people in the high-tech community, strong people in the Israeli media, because the Israeli media is also under risk. We are hearing what this government is talking about, shutting down channels and even shutting down specific programs. This is not a joke. This is a real threat to Israeli freedom of speech and freedom of journalism. Therefore, I believe that this demonstration creates an energy, a movement, a feeling that this is something that cannot pass. Even if this government has 70 seats, 80 seats, 120 seats, the majority cannot make the decision to change and to cancel the basic freedom of the Israeli citizens. And when they are saying that no one is going to protect the minority, because this is actually what they are saying, they are allowing themselves, because they have the majority in the Knesset, to be one ruler. It's not democracy. This is not what Israel is all about. And therefore, we see so many people, by the way, including right-wing people. And there was one person that was missing yesterday, and it was Netanyahu himself. Because if you will check the things that Netanyahu said in the last 20 years about the Supreme Court and about the need for real checks and balances, about an independent legal system, he could be part of the speakers, but he went so far away to the right with the most extremist partners.
If you allow me, I'm just, writing down all the claims of Yariv. Yariv, we were not surprising. I mean, 100,000 people, it's quite impressive, but don't forget, it's more or less 4 seats, not more than that. I want to remind you that Meretz disappeared and Labour has roughly 4 seats. And by the way, I support completely in those demonstrations. It shows that Israel is a democracy, because if it would not be a democracy, so you could not demonstrate. It's not the Israeli public. 100,000 out of more than 9 billion, it's not the Israeli public. It's a minority of the minority. And let's assuming that you will have 200,000 demonstrators, go with it. Now, you spoke about shutting down channels. With all due respect, who shut down Channel 7 of the right wing? It was you.
It was illegal. It was an illegal channel.
He wanted to shut down
broke the law. What can we do? We respect the law.
Was the same story.
No, it wasn't the same.
That's exactly what we are speaking about. Kol HaShalom was the twin radio channel of Channel 7, but they did it. But you know what? Assuming that it's okay. Who wanted to shut down Israel Hayom? It was you. Who wanted to shut down Channel 14? By the way, the report of Channel 14 yesterday was harassed by some of the demonstrators, not all of them, and I couldn't hear anything from you. Now, you spoke about Netanyahu. Yariv, with all due respect, people changed their mind. Netanyahu saw exactly what has been happening in the last years, and before the election, we said we are going to fix the judicial system because it's so absurd that the situation
the only reason why Netanyahu changed his mind is because he is under legal trial, and he is now accused to be a criminal, and this is the reason why he wants to cancel it.
Yariv,
other things hasn't changed.
Eli, let me put a question back to you, Eli, here, and bear with me for a second, because in addition to this, controversial overhaul of the judiciary that's, out to limit the high court's powers, we were talking about a change of laws to remove the bans on racist lawmakers. We're talking about allowing businesses to discriminate on religious grounds. We're talking about the Minister of Communications, who wants to do away with the public broadcaster. On top of that, a Minister of Culture and Sports who essentially wants to punish people who, criticize Israel in movies, in films. This is all in the first weeks of this government.
No. None of them will happen except the Israeli Broadcasting Authority. We say, and by the way, I hold the same position. I don't have to sponsor this channel with 800 million a year when no one sees that. If they want, we can privatize it. Yeah, nobody
And by
sees
the
it.
way,
You know,
public broadcasting is not about rating. This is exactly the issue. It's like museum. By the way, it's like supporting the Orthodox religious institute. Why I need to pay for the ultra-Orthodox religious instrument? Yeah.
Yariv, why 800 million shekels a year?
It's not enough. I agree with you. You need to make it even bigger.
It should be less.
No, because
less.
in democracy, you support culture. You know what is culture? Culture, it's not shows, and it's not just entertainment. In democracy, like in Britain, you support also culture. This is the reason why I'm paying taxes. I'm paying taxes for culture, but I also pay taxes for Orthodox religious schools and other things that I don't believe in. Everyone's supporting many things, including public broadcasting. You are not a democratic party anymore. You want to silence down the public broadcasting. This is exactly what you are aiming for. It's not about the money.
Yariv, claiming that it's so irrational. As I proved to you, you shut down Channel 7. You wanted to shut down Channel 14.
Illegal.
And you wanted to shut down Israel Hayom when it was a supporter of Netanyahu.
Not to make it for free. Not shutting
the
down.
Gap between us, Yariv, the gap between us is so far. I mean, the distance between me and you is so far. You're accusing the right wing on the best things that you already did in the past.
Eli, and the distance between you and the Likud party from decades ago is huge. The Likud party was supposed to be a liberal party. Look, where are you going? You are going to be the assistants of the Otzma Yehudit and Ben Gvir. You became the advocate for Otzma Yehudit and Ben Gvir. What happened to the Likud liberal party? What happened to the party that supports the freedom of speech, the freedom of journalism, the freedom of everyone? You support laws that are going to discriminate people. What happened to you?
Yariv, you're so funny while saying that, because I remember that after the election, you claimed, I can't remember because I follow you from time to time on Twitter, but I remember that Yair Lapid used to call Netanyahu a weak Bibi that surrendered to Otzma Yehudit. But you could see what's happened in the last weekend in Israel. There is a prime minister, he's holding the wheel, he's navigating, and with all due respect, please respect democracy. Please respect the will of the majority.
Democracy is the rights of the minority. Learn what is about what democracy. Listen to Netanyahu's speech is not for long time ago.
You have a lot of rights of the minority.
I want to give both of you a chance here in the short time we have left. Yariv, I mean, we're seeing this protest movement grow each week. What's going to happen next week? What are the next steps for pushing back on the government right now?
I think it's not just about the people that are coming to demonstrate. It's also about the strong people in the Israeli society and abroad. We have to create a network of people, of business people, of politicians all around the world that loves Israel, care for Israel, invest money in Israel, and saying to the Israeli government, if you are going to make Israel like Hungary, like Poland, we are not going to take part. We are going to go out of Israel. We are not going to invest money here. This is the language that Netanyahu and his people understand, and I hope this will happen.
So, Eli, does there need to be effort to bridge the divides, to simmer these streets?
No. With your permission,
less than a minute left.
Yeah, they said that Israel is under political boycott in the beginning of the 2000s, every time that Netanyahu was in power, and then you could see this is false. Yariv, you can say whatever you want, but you cannot deny the following fact. When Netanyahu is in power, the economic situation of Israel is the best ever. By the way, including our days when the GDP per capita of Israel is much better than of Germany, Britain, France, New Zealand, and the others. So you can say whatever you want. This is a democracy. You can preach for things, but at the end, we are going after the success, and the success is Netanyahu.
You gentlemen can carry on for much longer than this. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I appreciate you both. Eli, Vered, Chazan, appreciate you joining us. Tough issues to hash out, especially with the two of you. Yariv Oppenheimer, thank you for being with us.